Welcome everyone to Lumina Foundation for Education's webinar on the Latino Student Success Invitation-Only RFP. For those who have signed on for some number of minutes in advance of the start time today, you have been seeing pictures of our 4 panelists. For those of you who just signed on, let me introduce the panelists to you. My name is Tina Gridiron Smith, and I'm a program officer at Lumina Foundation for Education. My portfolio focuses on success-related grants. Examples of Lumina's work in the success arena include our community college projects through Achieving the Dream, work to highlight models of success among minority-serving institutions, work to improve state and system developmental education policy and practice, as well as efforts to increase the success for adult learners. With me today are my colleagues, Jim Applegate, Liz Gutierrez, and Susan Johnson. First, let me introduce Dr. Jim Applegate, Lumina's Vice President for Program Development. Jim?
Thanks, Tina. As Tina indicated, I'm Vice President for Program Development. In that capacity, I work with our program officers and directors, our strategy teams focused on enhancing college preparation success and productivity, basically trying to ensure that all of our investments, both monetary and our own human capital, are tied to efforts that will dramatically move us toward the big goal, which we'll talk about more later.
Thanks, Jim. I'd also like to introduce you to my colleague, Dr. Liz Gutierrez, Director of State Policy with Lumina Foundation.
Welcome and good afternoon, everyone. As Director of State Policy, my role is to support the states in their work to meet the big goal for higher education attainment, which is 60% of the U.S. population with a post-secondary degree or credential by the year 2025. I work closely with Lumina's 3 program teams and our partners and grantees to support and strengthen state-level policy work to the big goal.
Finally, my colleague, Dr. Susan Johnson, who is a program officer with Lumina Foundation, is here with us today. Susan?
Good afternoon, everyone. As a program officer, my current portfolio consists of grants in our success and productivity strategic areas, including the minority-serving institution work that Tina mentioned earlier, efforts to improve the post-secondary success of adult learners, and work that bolsters economic development in major metro areas by focusing on increasing the number of people with high-quality degrees and credentials. It is a pleasure to have you on the call with us today, and we look forward to seeing proposals about the exciting work you're doing around Latino student success.
Thank you for signing on with us this afternoon. There are 218 individuals on the line, and we appreciate your interest in participating in this conversation. Our aim today is to answer your questions about the RFP. Thank you to those who have already posted questions through email and on our website. After a few introductory remarks, we will start with the questions already submitted. We're scheduled for 1 hour, but our plan is to end when we have addressed all questions. So when questions stop coming in, we'll ask if anyone has any more questions and provide a few moments to receive additions. And if none arrive, we'll end at that time. Please note that if you have questions after the conference call today, you may still post questions to the email address provided in the RFP. That email address is latinostudentsuccess@luminafoundation.org. We will update the FAQ, or Frequently Asked Questions document, on the Latino Student Success website every Friday with answers from the questions submitted that week. We will also post this audio conference on the website in case you have colleagues unable to participate today. During this webinar, we will refer to information on the Latino Student Success website. For those interested in pulling up the site during the call, remember, your password and login are the same, Meta 2025. That is META 2025. With that, I will turn to my colleague Jim to get us started. Jim?
Thanks, Tina. Lumina has issued this invitation on our RFP because we see Latino student success as a vital strategy in helping us reach the big goal of increasing the proportion of Americans with high-quality degrees and credentials to 60% by 2025. Given demographic trends, current attainment rates, and projected future workforce needs, our data shows that without a very intentional approach to Latino student attainment, we cannot reach our national goals. With that in mind, Lumina Foundation intends to award targeted, competitive grants in specific geographic regions. These grants will build bridges among groups, amplify existing projects, and support local, state, regional, and national efforts to improve Latino student success. I'll now turn to my colleague Liz to share a few specific points regarding the RFP itself.
Thanks, Jim. Through the Latino Student Success Grant Program, Lumina Foundation will invest up to $600,000 per grantee over 4 years for a total investment of $8 million. Successful applicants must also secure a $200,000 funding match. As stated in the RFP, the grant period is from October 1, 2011 through September 30, 2015. However, applicants may use the first 6 to 12 months as planning time to strengthen current partnerships, gather and analyze data, secure matching grant dollars, and develop action plans. It's anticipated that budget costs will be minimal during this planning period. Regardless of the duration of the planning time, all grants will end by September 30th, 2015. Lumina payments in the second, third, and fourth years will be contingent upon approval of action plans, confirmation of matching grant dollars, and the successful progress of proposed activities. Please remember that this is a competitive grant process. All proposals will be reviewed and rated by a team of Lumina staff. We anticipate awarding 8 to 12 grants, depending on the size and scope of the selected partnerships. We also plan to create a network of selected grantees who are working to increase Latino student success. Since we anticipate that there will be more worthy projects than Lumina is able to fund, there may be opportunities for additional projects that are not awarded grants to join the network as well. This may include participation in network communications and invitations to attend convenings of the network with expenses paid by Lumina. And now, Susan Johnson will share some information about the focus of the RFP.
Thank you, Liz. Our interest in this work, as stated in the RFP, is to support place-based collaborative efforts designed to foster large-scale change. As such, we seek to help national, regional, and local groups work together to achieve Latino college success. We will support efforts that expand and align existing initiatives in key regions with large or rapidly growing Latino populations. Ultimately, we hope these grants will create positive Latino student success messages that not only increase Latino students and their families' ability to access and succeed in college, but also build public will to implement and enhance Latino student success programs, increase resources to achieve long-term sustainability, achieve large-scale collective impact on Latino student success, create alignment among partners around a common agenda, shared metrics, and mutually reinforcing actions, commit to transparent collection, use, and sharing of disaggregated data to set goals, and lastly, repair weaknesses in the college access and success pipeline. Keep in mind that each application must provide a strong rationale for the strategy proposed by using local, state, and national data. I'll turn it back over to my colleague Tina, who will now share information on what we mean by place-based collaboration.
For the purpose of the Latino Student Success RFP, we define place-based collaboration as any effort that engages various combinations of national, regional, state, and local entities in a particular community, city, or region. We seek to support collaborations with a long-term commitment to a common agenda for increasing Latino college success. A strong proposal will demonstrate an understanding of the cultural, social, economic, and environmental factors faced by Latino students and their families in a particular geographic area. Competitive projects must include at least one representative from each of the following sectors: a community-based organization, Latino organization, a K-12 institution, higher education institution, an employer, and a policymaker. Some of you have asked for information about the other organizations invited to participate in this RFP. To facilitate collaboration, we have posted the full list of invited organizations on the Latino Student Success website. All organizations are encouraged to review the list to make decisions about potential partners. Please note that while the lead organization submitting a proposal must be from this list, these organizations are free to select partners that are not on the list. We encourage you to work collectively to submit proposals for your particular region. As such, we see strength in a single proposal from each region. For this reason, multiple proposals from the same community will not increase your chances of success in the review process. We want to emphasize that for this work to yield results beyond the life of Lumina grants, the key players must be the groups that are woven into the fabric of the community life within the region. Questions have already come in regarding what we mean by collective impact. So my colleague Jim will share some thoughts about this topic as well.
Well, we're fortunate that a recent publication in Stanford Innovation Review by Kenny and Kramer, which is on the website. Most of you, I hope, have had a chance to read it. If not, please do. That captures a lot of what we know about how initiatives are organized that really do have collective impact. First of all, there needs to be a common agenda among the organizations. Let me say at the outset, we know this is hard work. One of the things we're trying to do is to, as has been said several times, is to build synergy across what we know are a number of initiatives in many metropolitan regions and regions in general, so that we can get collective impact. So a common agenda with a common set of goals and a purpose statement, a shared measurement system. All partners have agreed to measure their results on the same criteria and really participate in evidence-based decision-making. Mutually reinforcing activities. Each partner has autonomy, but as they work together to set out their activities and direction, they do so in a way it's sort of like putting pieces of a puzzle together so that they are mutually reinforcing and constitute a common plan of action and is informed by a shared measurement of results. Also, continuous communication. We hope this will be a long-term sustained effort, certainly for the 4 years of our involvement and beyond, and this will require setting up infrastructures that allow for continuous communication among the partners through websites, newsletters, conference calls, dashboards, regular meetings, some combination of strategies that you feel will work best in your region. And lastly, some sort of backbone support organization. We don't necessarily mean that you need to create a new organization for this effort from whole cloth. Rather, what we know is there needs to be some set of players who wake up every morning with this common agenda and these common goals and these metrics right at the front of their minds, and they wake up every morning to advance the overall agenda. So those are the kinds of things that we're looking for. These are the key elements. I'll turn it back over to my colleague Tina now to talk more about the types of outcomes we're looking for in the RFP.
As we mentioned in the RFP, we will use a third-party evaluator to examine and engage all the organizations chosen to participate in this grant program. However, we also expect each project to conduct its own internal evaluation. This means that grant recipients will be expected to track and report increases in degrees and credentials awarded to Latino students and changes in the achievement gaps for Latino students. Please note on page 9 of the RFP, under the heading Expected Outcomes, in this section there are only 2 required indicators that all grantees must track. Again, that's page 9 of the RFP. Under the heading Expected Outcomes, there are only 2 required indicators that all grantees must track. The first, changes in the number and percentage of credentials and degrees awarded to Latino students. The second, changes in the achievement gap of Latino students as compared to other students in your particular region. All other indicators and outcomes discussed on page 9 are suggestions for potential grantees to consider. Examples of some of the suggested indicators include annually reporting on the total amount of local, state, and federal dollars dispersed to improve Latino student success in your region, documenting local, state, and national policy efforts that affect Latino student success, tracking the number of Latino students applying for financial aid and receiving financial aid in your region, improving the effectiveness of developmental and remedial education in your region, and increasing the number of Latino students transferring from 2-year to 4-year college. We recognize that there are many other possible indicators, and you should not feel constrained to use our examples alone. Therefore, please feel free to use other appropriate intermediate indicators to track the success of your work. Please remember, the only required indicators that all grantees must track are the two listed at the top of page 9 under the heading Outcomes Indicators. Now, we're going to move into the segment of our conference call that allows us to read some of the specific questions that came in before the call, as well as questions that have come in from our guests. The slide that I've just shown gives you the instructions on how to submit questions. Our first question, I will turn it over to Liz to respond to.
Thanks, Tina. One person on the webinar has asked, what is the difference between the required activities and the suggested activities? Do we need to do everything on the list? The RFP defines required activities on page 7 and suggested activities on page 8. Proposals should address all of the required activities on page 7. Specifically, we are looking for proposals that reflect collaboration among the key sectors listed in the RFP to develop and commit a well-defined agenda to address weaknesses in the Latino student pipeline. The suggested activities of the RFP on page 8 include areas of education policy and practice that are key to improving Latino student success. We do not anticipate that one proposal will cover all the suggested areas. However, we would like proposals to address one or two of these areas to bring about sustained and accelerated improvement in Latino student success. Now I'll respond to Tina with a couple of questions that address the scope of the proposal.
Thanks, Liz. We have received 3 questions that are similar, so I'd like to read the 3 questions and then provide some feedback on the questions. The first, are you expecting a proposal to cover one metropolitan area only, or are you expecting proposals that would cover 2 or more cities? The dollar amount seems to indicate one grant equals one city. The second question, do you prefer to see only one submission per organization, or are multiple submissions permitted if the partners and project scopes vary? And the third question was, can one organization submit multiple proposals? Those are all great questions. The first, one grant per region is most likely. While we do not prohibit any organization from submitting multiple proposals, it is unlikely that multiple proposals from one organization will increase your chances of success. Given Lumina's desire to invest in local leadership, local expertise, and long-term local sustainability, it is unlikely that one organization will have the capacity and on-the-ground expertise to lead more than one effort. However, it is possible and indeed acceptable for one organization, particularly a national or state organization, to be named as a partner in more than one proposal. We believe that the national and state organizations may be particularly suited to assist with evaluation, facilitation, technical assistance, and media efforts, to name a few. We do not require one organization to submit multiple proposals, or we do not recommend that one organization submit multiple proposals, but that multiple organizations work together in a particular region, community, city, to submit the strongest proposal that represents the work in your area. My colleague Jim will now respond to another question we've received. Jim?
Yes, the question is, what does large scale mean? And then we received even more recently one that asks about how much emphasis is placed on the ability of our program to scale up on a national level. We're really talking about this. We're focusing on regions, and so we're not expecting. Although we would hope we would learn lessons that would allow us to replicate and move these to other metropolitan regions around the country. We're not expecting you to scale up to a national level. What we mean by scale here is that in your metropolitan region, which we are choosing because you have a large and rapidly growing Latino population, that you are proposing to include a dramatic change in the number of students served by a particular intervention from the beginning of the project to the end of the project. Large scale can also represent the total numbers of students served. Ultimately, we want to see large-scale changes in the number of Latino students receiving meaningful credentials and degrees. We recognize that each community is unique with a set number of Latino students and families, changing demographics and specific migration patterns. That said, we invite each proposal to make the case for why their project is large scale for their community. What is large scale in North Carolina may be different than what is large scale in Texas. In short, we are open to various definitions of scale and look forward to learning about the unique realities of your community. But recognize that Lumina ultimately is interested in achieving the big goal, 60% of individuals with high-quality degrees and credentials by 2025. That will require millions more degrees and credentials being granted than we're currently on track to produce, and we believe that large-scale success in this Latino Student Success Grant program is particularly important to reaching that goal. Susan, I think you have another question there.
The following question just came in over the course of our webinar. Among the parties to be included in place-based collaboration are people in a position of policy leadership. What does Lumina mean by policy leadership? Can they be very local, such as PTA president, a school board member? Or are we looking for state senators, U.S. congressmen, members of the State Board of Regents? When we say policy leadership, we mean any publicly elected official or their appointee with the knowledge, the expertise, and the resources to advance Latino student success is eligible to serve as a representative from the policy arena in this RFP. We believe that long-term success requires long-term, deep public investment. In our view, only through the committed involvement of key public figures will the Latino Student Success projects achieve sustained results. Tina, I think you have our next question.
Yes, thanks, Susan. Can funding for the grant be used for both documented and undocumented students? The answer is yes. Jim, our next question.
Let's see, where's the, can we use grant dollars to pay the salary of a person dedicated to Latino student outreach and recruitment? The answer is yes.
Liz?
Our organization is presently an affiliate of another organization and is in the process of applying for its own tax-exempt status. Can we apply for a Lumina grant as a separate entity from the umbrella organization? In order to apply for a grant, your organization must be named on the Latino Student Success website, and you must have your own 501c3 designation from the IRS at the time of submission. Susan?
Some of you have asked about the budgeting of the grants. Does the grant have to be averaged out in equal amounts over the 4-year period? That is $150,000 per year. We encourage organizations to create budgets that support the flow of work that you're proposing. While equal payments are preferred, we recognize that some projects may require slight adjustments to achieve their desired results. This may mean varied funding amounts in different years of the grant. Tina?
Can grant dollars be used to support interventions from early childhood education through college completion? We get this question a lot in our work, and while Lumina Foundation recognizes the important efforts needed at all stages of the educational pipeline, our work more narrowly focuses on post-secondary preparation and success of students starting around middle school up through 2-year and 4-year college completion. We applaud the work and would like to see more work happening in the early childhood education arena, but at this time, Lumina Foundation's efforts are not designed for that stage of development. Middle school up through 4-year college completion fits more in the bullseye of Lumina's work. We have additional questions that my colleagues would like to answer. Jim?
Yeah, we have one here that's, can you share with us a little more information on how Lumina is defining a regional or place-based collaboration? We understand that regions and the connections that bring regions together, both problems and opportunities, don't honor political boundaries. We're actually looking for you to come up with to make that justification. You define your region, and you define it in the way that makes the most sense in terms of marshaling multiple resources and partners to address the Latino student success challenge in that region. I could imagine a region that crosses state lines. I could imagine a region that might cross national lines in certain states. But how are you, so it's really we want you to define that and talk about how you're going to improve Latino student success in your region as you define it.
Is there another question a panelist would like to answer? I will address one. We had a question here that there are 8 to 12 collaborative grants anticipated to be awarded across the nation. 11 states are listed in the invitation. Will this competition allow more than one grant award per state? The answer to that question is yes. It is not a guarantee that every state will receive a grant, and it is possible that multiple grants will be made to different communities within a particular state. This is a competitive process, and we are excited about the work happening in these 11 states, given the demographic realities for these 11 states, but we are open to the strongest proposals that may come from 1 or 2 or 5 of the states, and not all 11. Is there another question? Jim?
There's one here that says, if a campus in one higher ed system has received an invitation to submit, but another campus in their region has not, but could be a good partner for this type of project, would it be acceptable for the 2 campuses to collaborate in the grant proposal? As we said earlier, one needs to be the lead on the invitation list, but we certainly recognize and, in fact, encourage you in scanning who should be the right partners. There are some required partners, of course, to bring those partners to the table that make a difference, can help make the most difference in Latino student success. So the answer to that is it's yes as a partner, but the invited campus must be the lead for the grant proposal.
Another question that came in is, can dollars be used to award scholarships to pay for tuition or program fees? We get that question quite a bit in our work as well, and the answer is no. These dollars cannot be used for scholarship purposes.
A good question came in. Does the $200,000 match funding need to be raised at a set amount for every year of the 4-year project, i.e. $50,000 per year, as opposed to $200,000 raised in year 1? While we would be thrilled for any organization to raise its $200,000 match in year 1, a moderated investment or securing of dollars over the 4 years is acceptable. The lead organization is responsible for showing progress towards the match, and future grant payments will be contingent, in part, will be contingent upon a clear showing of grant match dollars already secured. So in year 2, we would expect you to be closer to the $100,000 mark than the $50,000 mark, and so forth and so on.
One here says, can the budget from the grant show a gradual decrease over the 4-year term and include an increase in public and other private funding in order to begin to build sustainability in the community for the project? The answer is absolutely yes. In fact, I think that would be a positive to show that you're projecting increased commitment from your region to the long-term sustainability of the work. And I guess we can reinforce this one more time. There's a reading that says, indicates the proposal should focus on a single community. It appears that this would preclude an applicant from collaborating with other partners to serve a large geographic region of several counties. Is this interpretation correct? No, that's not correct. I mean, again, back to what we said earlier, we're looking to you to identify what is the region as defined by the connections and the organizations and the challenges and the opportunity that exist. So we understand it doesn't observe county lines, all the things we said earlier. So I think you need to make the case for what you think is a doable and sensible strategic region to launch this kind of initiative.
We just got a great question about a rural community. So the question is, we are in a rural community, and the rural college in our community, while our enrollment numbers have grown significantly in the recent past, we are still a small college as compared to a metropolitan or urban institution. How will our relatively small numbers affect our competitiveness? It's interesting because Lumina's approach to this work is about supporting currently existing collaborations that have a strong, dedicated, and evident commitment to Latino success. So the first point of contact for us is, does your rural community already have an engagement of that type? And if that is the case, we can see examples where a rural strong, collaborative project that has great measures, wonderful engagement, strong communication would be even more competitive than an urban environment that has lots of students but has a fragmented collaboration effort. It is not a deficit to be part of a rural community. We want to fund great work that has the potential for long-term sustainability. So making the case and showing commitment beyond the life of the grant prior to writing your proposal for the grant helps to strengthen your message in your proposal beyond the raw numbers of what is the reality in your rural versus an urban environment.
There are several technical questions about the proposal itself, such as, are the requirements listed in Section 3 appendices required of all partners in the application, and are the appendices included in the 20-page limit? The appendices are not included in the 20-page limit. We do expect that your narrative about the proposal not exceed 20 pages, and that the appendices are just that attachments are things to add on to the narrative piece. Are these appendices required of all the partners? We just require it of the primary organization that is submitting the proposal. We expect to know who your partners are. Yes, so that could be via a letter or a listing of who are all the collaborators for this particular project. But in terms of the appendices, we only need those of the lead organization.
A good question came in. Can the $200,000 match come from a current pledge which will be paid in the amount of $100,000 in 2011 and 2012 and $100,000 in 2012, 2013? If the dollars coming in will help to advance and support the work that you are proposing for this proposal, it is absolutely acceptable to leverage those dollars as dollars in support of your match. Any additional questions that my colleagues on the panel would like to address?
Well, there's one here that says, is it an expectation for a proposal to reflect a place-based collaboration with representation from the 6 entities listed on the slide? I think you're referring to the Latino organization. If you're referring to the phrase around Latino organization, K-12, higher ed, yes. We feel like that's that to have those sectors represented is pretty essential. Now, in terms of the overall scope and nature of the partnership, which of those K-12 organizations or which higher ed organization or others that need to be a part of it per your region and community certainly can go beyond that. But if we don't have K-12, higher ed, Latino organizations, communities, those that are listed, we feel like we're not getting all the voices in the conversation that we need to have to succeed.
And to add to Jim's comments, the RFP lists 6 different entities. So at minimum, we expect 5 or 6 entities to be a part of the collaboration. The area where you might find a bit of overlap might be with the Latino organization requirement and the community-based organization requirement. We see that there might be an overlap of those 2 requirements being satisfied by one particular entity. But overall, we expect to see a minimum of 5 to 6 organizations in collaboration for this work.
One question coming in about how the foundation thinks about connecting grantees once selected in the interest of sharing promising practices, lessons learned, and common challenges. Typically, we form either networks or have events where we bring in grantees to do just that, to share their work, to see what challenges they're facing, and also, again, to share those promising practices. We have used websites, we have used convenings, we have used listservs, so there are a number of ways that we attempt to connect grantees. We don't expect your work to occur in a vacuum. We definitely want your work to be shared with others that are doing the work at the same time, so it is our every intention to keep grantees connected throughout not only the range of this work, but beyond if possible.
Well, and just to add to what Susan has said, and as we noted in the prior discussion, we are hopeful and fully perhaps expect that we will get many more worthy proposals than we can fund, the 8 to 12. And we'll certainly be looking for opportunities to, even if you don't end up being one of the 8 to 12 grantees, we will be looking for opportunities as one of the advantages of this type of RFP we've discovered is we uncover lots of wonderful work that we didn't know about, not the usual suspects that we usually know. And so we'll want to make sure you provide the opportunity for targeted numbers of others of those doing great work to be a part of that conversation. As we indicated, that could involve including you in the network. It could involve inviting you and paying your way to convenings just to further enrich the kind of learning and conversations that go on.
We received a question about the invitation list. How do we know who the contact people are at the invited organizations? All presidents, executive directors, or CEOs of all of the organizations were invited. In some cases, we also added additional names just to make sure that the request for proposals didn't get lost in spam mail. We are not publicizing the list of the names at this point. Actually, we will not publicize the list of the names to protect the organizations, and we encourage you to get in touch with the executive directors, presidents, or leaders of these organizations and institutions to find out who would be the best individual for you to connect with. We are still receiving questions, so please bear with us as we read through them and identify who might answer the next question.
Well, there's one here that would it be okay for funded program to serve large proportions of Latino students but not serve Latino students exclusively? I think that's possible, but keep in mind, we really believe that there need to be targeted efforts around the Latino student success population, adult and traditional students. And so I don't know that I'm looking around at my colleagues here because some of these questions pop up and I'm not sure we've thought about them. But, I think, it wouldn't have to be exclusive, but you would have to be showing that this program is going to produce at large scale increases in success of Latinos particularly. This is focused and intentional around Latino population. So if it was a program that looked like it was just a general service program and it happened to have some Latinos involved and wasn't particularly trying to serve their needs, that would be less attractive to us at this stage. We do a lot of other work in preparation for college, success for college, we do lots of work with all kinds of populations, and some of it's more broadly focused. But we really believed in this program for the reasons we've outlined previously. We need people to become intentional and think specifically about the challenges facing the Latino community in advancing its education attainment.
One question again about more technical questions about the budget. What do you anticipate a typical project budget might look like? Do you encourage the inclusion of a stipend and/or contract for all partners to cover the cost of their participation? The budget is usually broken up into direct and indirect costs. Direct costs usually involve salaries of people directly involved with the project. Indirect could be subcontracts to other partners, evaluators, purposes for travel and meeting expenses. The budget sheet, if you look at it on the website, gives a clear delineation as to what we mean by direct and indirect, and also the percentage of what you can use for indirect costs. Most importantly, in the budget narrative is your ability to explain why that particular cost is associated with whatever you're proposing. It's not enough just to put within an Excel sheet a figure and not explain where the figure came from. So we rely heavily upon your budget narrative to explain whatever costs you feel you might incur around this project, taking the time to really thoroughly explain where those costs come from and what the dollars will be used for.
There's several questions in here further, just more questions. I think we said some of this, but around match and what counts. Before coming to Lumina, having been a grantee of Lumina, one of the great things about Lumina is we are very open to match. We're about outcomes. And so federal dollars, in kind, meaning organizations providing in-kind support in terms of time and investment. These are all kinds of things that can be counted as match. So, we're not like some organizations where you can't count federal grants or you can't count this or the other. But because we want you to bring together the resources that are necessary to drive outcomes. So, federal dollars, state dollars, other grants you've gotten from other places that you can devote. Now, again, we want to see it devoted and tailored and showing how it's going to be connected to the common agenda, the common goals, the metrics of this effort for collective impact. So you've got to show the connection. You can't just say, we've got another program going on out here somewhere in left field, and it's remotely related, and we want to count that as a match. But if those resources are truly being integrated into a synergistic effort, a collective effort in the region, targeting the goals of this work, then we're fine with it.
Mm-hmm. And continuing along Jim's comments, that match is also a way to show how you plan to sustain the work beyond the life of this grant. We fully expect that that the work will continue beyond the grant, that this work is already happening. This is not new work. This is already occurring. You are just seeking to either bring in additional partners or take it to a larger scale. But the importance and the message that we want to drive home is that we want this work to continue beyond the life of the grant, and therefore there needs to be buy-in at whatever level, whether that's institutional, regional, statewide, whatever it may be. That commitment needs to be there in order for the work to continue.
We have a question about a policy approach from, I believe it's someone in New York. Since one of Lumina's catalytic approaches is through public policy, would it be advantageous for a lead organization to have a very strong grass tops advocacy track record in New York and nationally, as well as intimate relationships with grassroots agencies? Well, of course, we encourage as many partners at various levels of the policy process in order to be able to respond effectively and make a difference. So definitely grassroots and grass tops organizations are vital to make those connections and have a good outcome.
A question came in regarding Lumina's website indicates that Lumina will not fund discipline-specific programs. Is this prohibition applicable to the Latino Student Success RFP? That is a question, a unique question that we did not anticipate.
I would go back to the scale issue. I mean,
fair enough.
I would say that if it's focused, obviously there's a lot of work out there on STEM. There's a lot of work out there in health professions. I'm not sure that focusing in this particular case, the real question is scale. Are you moving dramatic numbers of students into college and out? And if that happens to be a targeted work around areas that have high workforce demand, I think that would certainly be acceptable. Unless some of my colleagues think we're sometimes we're looking at one another here because we're getting questions we didn't anticipate. And
great questions.
But I think those are great questions.
As we are collecting more questions, while we're waiting, please note that all proposals are due to Lumina by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on June 13th. This should be filed electronically with us following the directions in the RFP proposal form. Also, please remember that Lumina will not review any incomplete proposals. I am turning back to my colleagues who are diligently looking through the list to see if we have covered, for the most part, most of the questions. Please know we will continue to answer questions after the webinar. You may pose questions using our Latino Student Success email address, and we will share answers for the full community to review every Friday by updating the Frequently Asked Questions document. A question just came in regarding applicants are encouraged to list in their proposal all education initiatives that are active in the communities they seek to serve. What does Lumina mean by educational initiatives? We hope that the work you are proposing for Lumina to fund will help to align, connect, amplify, strengthen existing work already happening in support of Latino student success. So we look to you to identify the level of energy that is currently active in your community around Latino student success, and identify all those initiatives that are touching the lives of Latino students in a significant way. You list them, and then you make the case for how the work that you are proposing to Lumina will help to connect the dots, will help to create a through line, will help to amplify, strengthen, and encourage more work in support of Latino student success. So we are taking the term educational initiative very broad. We are giving you the freedom to identify those that are relevant to this RFP.
Yeah, I think relevance is the key term there. I mean, there may be a prenatal program that is designed for pregnant mothers. If you think somehow that's relevant, but probably that's a little further afield than some other programs going on in your city. There's another question here about if we're focusing on, I won't be able to read it directly because I've already scanned off it, but it's around focus on access. Can we be expected, how do we talk about increases in degrees? I guess, and I'm looking at my colleagues again, but I think we are about college success. So certainly, because of the low participation rates of the Latino population in college, we understand a focus on access makes a lot of sense. But at the very least, we would expect to see what is it in that proposal that is not only going to give students access to college, but increase the likelihood of their ultimate success. And certainly we're hoping, of course, that these programs sustain, and that somewhere down the line you are showing the capacity to track success. So otherwise, how will you be able to know whether your access-focused initiative had impact, maybe even after the conclusion of the grant period? There's one here about could match be made in institutional financial aid. I guess I think let me give my interpretation of this question, which is, so institutions in a region step up and say that they're going to provide targeted financial aid for students being supported by this initiative. I suppose that could count as match, but if it's just
a private institution, that's probably more commonplace.
Right. But
the rule and the exception.
Yeah. So, but you need to show how something is being done, I think, to really marshal, to commit institutional financial aid to the, again, relevant to the Latino student success agenda. Not just say that as a normal course of things in X institution, a certain number of Latino students get some aid. Well, yeah, that's true, but how is something different going to be done here to use that to support and drive increases in success? It's the best way I could answer that.
And there are some communities that have put together strong collaborations and strong partnerships to marshal dollars into their community, to pull in additional resources. So to the extent that you are showing your strength in that arena, it adds to the competitiveness of your proposal. A question has come in about the fact that some people collect data using the term Hispanics and others collect data using the term Latinos. We are comfortable with the using either term in your tracking mechanisms based on how data are collected in your local context.
There's one here, would increasing the number of students who apply and are admitted to graduate programs be considered? We're really not so focused on getting students into graduate school. We know that moving them, that's not unimportant, but it's sort of like the early childhood argument. It's really not in the focal point. We feel like the real challenge right now is to get more students into college and get them associate, baccalaureate degrees, meaningful workforce credentials that are really going to serve them.
We are nearing the end of our hour time together, and we are seeing a slowing down of the questions that arrive. Please note that any questions that we are not able to answer on this webinar will be addressed in the Frequently Asked Questions document that we will update every Friday. I want to make sure to give my colleagues around the table a chance to look at the questions that are in-house now to see if we haven't already answered them.
Well, there's a few in here about national organizations, and again, I just want to emphasize we have included national organizations in our invitation because we think they can play a valuable role in driving change in regions. We've outlined some of the ways we think that they can do so in the conversation previously. The key issue here is ownership by the region and the community. We don't want this to be an ex-national organization initiative in a region, nor do we want to be. We're certainly willing to engage Lumina to the extent we're helpful, but we're not looking to put a Lumina label on these organizations. We don't want these to be, as a friend of mine said, wonder grants, where you get a grant from Lumina and then you immediately begin to wonder where the next grant's going to come from so you can sustain the effort. And that's why we feel it's so important that there be ownership. This should be a region initiative. National organizations, to the extent they're involved, and there are many wonderful ways they can be involved, should be promoting that.
All right, we are taking a small break to see if there are any last-minute questions. Please be reminded that all proposals are due by 11:59 Eastern Standard Time on June 13th. They should be filed electronically as directed in the RFP proposal form. We will continue to receive questions via our email site at Latino Student Success at luminafoundation.org. Every Friday, we will update the frequently asked questions document on the Latino Student Success website. We are open to answering any last questions that come through, but please note, to remain fair to all, we will not engage in individual coaching for organizations invited to the RFP. All questions will be responded to in writing on the frequently asked questions document every Friday, and we will not engage in individual coaching for the organizations invited to the RFP.
I know we're running out of time. There's one question here about at what point are we allowed to share the RFP with those institutions that may be a part of our grant collaboratively but did not receive an invitation to participate. We're a coordinating agency with oversight of multiple public institutions. I think as you are developing your partnership, do it now. I mean, we understand you've got to do that so they know what they're getting into, and so yeah, do that now, and so that you're using the RFP as a way to help inform the nature of the collaboration that you are creating. And should letters of support be included with the application? I think the more you can provide that, one of the things we'll be looking at is this a true collaboration? I mean, if you say on a piece of paper, all these people are with us, that's not as strong as more documentation that says that these organizations have in fact made a commitment. So I think, the better the case you can make that you've actually gotten this kind of collaboration. Now remember, we do allow, as we noted in the early part, 6 months to a year, or 3 months, or whatever it takes you, some opportunity for you to say, we're going to be working on solidifying, bringing the partnership together. But if these organizations are there, then include them and document their engagement.
Please note that the slides, as well as an audio recording of this web conversation, will be available on the Latino Student Success website following the conversation, 24 hours after the conversation. For those that were not able to participate live, they can review the information on the Latino Student Success website.
Last question here. Would high-quality non-college technical degrees count towards increasing Latino student success? When we say college at Lumina, we really think about those kinds of degrees and credentials beyond high school that clearly have value in helping students succeed at higher levels at the next step. So I think the answer would be, to the extent that you can show that these are in fact contributing to that outcome, it would count.
Mm-hmm. There was a question regarding another Lumina initiative.
Yes, can grants be aligned with follow-on work with making opportunity affordable grants to states to study and recommend actions for improving delivery, collaboration costs, etc. for Latino students? Again, if there is existing work that you're already doing, whether that's through Achieving a Dream, what was once known as Making Opportunity Affordable, this is, again, if the focus is shifting towards Latino student success, we'd love to see that. Again, the work is already there. You're either expanding it or trying to align it more so with Latino student success. And there is no issue with you possibly already working in that area. Again, we've had many initiatives, much work that we've done in various states. So again, if you care to leverage some of that work and apply it to Latino student success, we are open to that suggestion.
With that, we have no more questions coming in. We want to thank you again for your excellent questions and for your participation in this conversation today. We know that your work is making a difference to increase the number of Latinos with high-quality credentials and degrees, and we look forward to reading your proposals. Thank you, and I'll now turn it over to John.
Ladies and gentlemen, that does conclude the conference call for today. We thank you for your participation. You may now disconnect. Have a good day.